3,500 Iowans call Onawa, Iowa, our town. Onawa is the county seat of Monona County, one of Iowa's most western counties along the banks of the Missouri. The word Monona is an Indian one, meaning beautiful valley, probably attached to this country by braves standing on the rolling bluffs, looking across the miles-wide Missouri River bottomland. More than 16,000 people live in Monona County, most of them on farms. County seat is our town, Onawa, also named by the Indians. A bustling street scene bears out the name, which means awake. The rural dominance of the county makes its mark on the modern city. Onawa was first plotted in 1857 by the Monona Land Company, but white settlers had been in the area long before. Lewis and Clark passed through this country on their way to the Pacific Northwest. The Monona Land Company also established a ferry across the river at Onawa, and a cluster of rude buildings began to grow a few miles inland at the edge of the wide river valley just before the bluffs begin. Built in the same year Onawa was founded was the Onawa House Hotel, an elaborate structure for the earliest days in the community. In 1880, Onawa looked like this when townsfolk climbed up to the schoolhouse tower and looked west to note the growth of their city. By 1892, Onawa was a thriving community and looked like this as you rode along its mud street in your carriage. The boy with a bicycle in front of the harness shop still lives in Onawa. He's Fred Wonder, who runs one of Onawa's newspapers. There was big excitement in Onawa in 1896. Free Silver supporters held a big rally that year for their presidential candidate, a Nebraskan named William Jennings Bryan. Since those days, Onawa has paved its streets and lighted them, built sewage systems and other conveniences, and the city still is busy. Some of the tall corn state's finest corn is grown in Monona County. Many of the county's 420,000 acres of farmland are in the Missouri River Valley, assured of good black soil. That backfires sometimes, though, like in April of last year, when the Missouri went on its most destructive rampage in the history of the basin. Monona County people near the river took a beating like everyone else. Grain stored in steel bins swelled as it soaked water, bursting seams. Even if the golf course hadn't been flooded, there wouldn't have been any players. Folks were too busy on the dikes or in evacuation operations. After the water receded and a big cleanup operation, the Country Club golf course is open again and doing a thriving business. The course is still as tough to par with a golf ball as it was back in the flood and hip boots, and watch your slice or you'll find yourself stymied by a cornstalk. Golf and other recreation makes this one of Onawa's favorite relaxing spots. Equally relaxing is this scene of rural contentment with healthy livestock grazing on abundant farms land. Livestock produced about half Monona County farmers' income last year. From virgin prairie to productive farms is a long, hard story of work. At first, mostly by elbow grease and manpower, then by horsepower and now tractor power, and of course the magic of electric power. Producing electric power and distributing it almost universally over the country, even to some of the nation's most isolated farmers, is a national industry. An intricate web of power lines crisscrosses the entire nation. Onawa is well supplied with electric power by its new municipal power plant. Owned by the city, the plant is maintained as a busy advertisement for municipal ownership of utilities. Big diesel-driven GE dynamos are on the job 24 hours a day with a total capacity of 3,210 kilowatts. Even if the largest generator should break down, the plant still would have a firm capacity of 2,200 kilowatts. That's power to spare, And power, of course, to supply the substation of the local Rural Electrification Association. Some farmers didn't have electric power until the Monona County Electric Co-op was set up. A non-profit group, the co-op makes everyone who belongs a shareholder. George Gerking, who manages the co-op for all its owners, he believes good service is a co-op goal in routine business or in case of trouble, calling for action by line foreman Ed Torgerson. And when it's trouble, things happen in a hurry. Fielding the call, Office Manager Carl Reef gets necessary details for pinpointing the cause, and the tracking down process begins. Time is important too, with a farmer's work waiting to be done. This time it sounds like a burned out transformer fuse. It's out west of Co-op headquarters, probably near the Ruth farm. Next stop is to get a lineman on the scene. Office Secretary Elaine Woods calls the closest truck, number 13. The office maintains constant contact with linemen with a two-way radio, powerful enough to cover the entire area served by the co-op. Lineman Jim Collison doesn't even have to stop his truck to pick up the message from headquarters, the location and the probable trouble. At the transformer pinpointed at headquarters, Jim gets out to climb the pole, one of the hundreds owned by the co-op to carry its 830 miles of line. A quick inspection proves the diagnosis. It was a burned-out transformer fuse. It's replaced just like the fuse in your fuse box, but at longer range. To make a test to see if that clears up the trouble, look into that nearby field. A powerful crop spray is back at work, parceling out water to thirsty plants. The Monona County Electric Co-op is equipped with complete traveling workshops capable of moving quickly from any job to erecting a power pole to servicing equipment of the co-op's 880 members. A more routine operation is collecting bill payments from the co-op's customers on their days in town. Most important people in our town are the smallest, the children. Many Onawa youngsters own what most big city kids just dream of, a pony. A large audience of small fry is attracted by Rita, and she puts her pony Star to his paces. Zipper's seen the act before and has a problem of her own. Not all kids are lucky enough to own their own pony, of course, and that's why this bucking bronco puts in a busy day. He's corralled by the front window of Moon's $5 to $1 store. Armed with a couple of six-shooters from the toy counter, Onawa small fry maintain law and order by keeping renegade Indians in check. When the Redskins are particularly fierce, it sometimes takes double firepower to drive them off. Popular among Onawa shoppers is Moon's $5 to $1, a modern air-conditioned store. Moon himself says a busy housewife can find anything from a needle to clothing for the entire family, and to goldfish in his store. The Goldfish Aquarium is another popular spot with Onawa kids. Fanny Price finds that Brother Davy is a little heavier than the last time. For Linda May Chandler, this trip to Moon's is on business. Linda's mother, Mrs. Leota Chandler, and brother Melvin supervise the operation. Sales lady Fern Kenyon is patient, knowing how hard a decision is when faced with a rack full of pretty dresses. Guess it was a new toy Linda had in mind all along. Melvin seems to go along with the choice. Now, when a man like Franklin Archer shops at Moon's, there's no fooling around. Once you find the right size and give yourself the once-over in the mirror, job's done. Indecision takes over again at the candy counter, though. John and Lenley House supervise here as Mrs. House makes a purchase from Moon's large candy supply. And the gum produces bubbles, too. Good eating of another kind is featured at this picnic in Lewis and Clark State Park, just a few miles outside Onawa. Highway Patrolman Ken Kirkpatrick, his wife Dorothy, and the two young Kirkpatricks enjoy an afternoon in the open. The menu features big roasted wieners with young Bobo as chef. And for dessert, watermelon. The park along the shores of Blue Lake features such attractions for the kids as this wobbly like pond. After a hard day of performing for visitors, Bambi, naturally that's his name, does himself proud when feeding time rolls around. Bambi, just 14 days old when this picture was taken, made an appearance at the Iowa State Fair. He's now at the state game farm, growing big enough so that he will eventually be turned loose. Heading up? No. Lewis and Clark State Park in the Onawa Blue Lake area was the second camping ground in Monona County of the Lewis and Clark expedition heading up the Missouri in 1804. Blue Lake provides one of the state park's major attractions, good fishing. Game also is abundant in the area, but hunting is of course forbidden. This area was a favorite hunting and fishing grounds years ago of the Fox, the Sac, and the Algonquin Indians. Blue Lake is one of the hundreds along the banks of the Missouri, formed when the meandering river changed its course, cutting off a U-shaped length of channel which became a horseshoe lake. 7,000 trees were planted in 1930 as a memorial to Park Commissioner Stephen Mather. Railroading got its start in Onawa in 1867 when the town gave right-of-way rights through the village. Chicago Northwestern Road now serves Onawa. A busy center of Onawa commercial activity is the city's post office. Center of Monona County government is the courthouse, built in 1892 in the county seat. The public library was built in 1908, a gift of the Andrew Carnegie Fund and Judge Addison Oliver of Onawa. Old School in Onawa on Highway 75 is keeping up with the times and expanding enrollments, too. It's just completed an $80,000 remodeling. In northeastern Onawa is the recently completed new school. Built at a cost of $200,000, it provides the most modern study and play facilities for Onawa children. Onawa is governed by a city council form of government. Here, City Clerk M.D. Mock discusses a city problem with his deputy clerk, Mrs. Pearl G. Dahl. Now nearing completion is a new city hall and fire station building for the city. The $38,000 building will provide modern city offices and a headquarters for the volunteer fire department. As the largest city in the county, Onawa does most of the $15 million worth of retail business done in Monona County every year. Onawa has come a long way since its first merchant, P.C. Latimer, opened his business. Early firms in Onawa were a tannery, carriage factory, foundry, horse collar shop, and a brickyard. Financial headquarters for many businessmen is the Onawa State Bank, established in Onawa 65 years. Officers of the bank hold their board meeting every Monday morning to review past business and plan for the new week. President Alan Muir, who's been with the bank 20 years, also is Chamber of Commerce and Kiwanis president. Assistant cashier is Bill Irwin, and the cashier is Wayne Virtue. Field representative for the bank is H.A. Taylor. Clifford Young is the teller. Established in 1888, the bank moved into its present quarters in 1930. The quarters were remodeled in 1947. Onawa State Bank believes handling the finances of its friends and neighbors is an unfailing responsibility. A long-time customer of the bank is an Onawa old-timer, Pearl R. Jividan. Taking care of her financial matters is Mrs. Ira Hoylene. In the busy bank business office, Ardith Oliver handles statements. Mary Jane Reed does the filing. And Mrs. Fay Williamson runs a proof machine. The bank, equipped with modern business machines, offers dozens of services, including checking and savings accounts, Christmas Savings Club, traveler's checks, and many, many others. The bank also has more than 800 safety deposit boxes in its large vault. Customer Jack Hanks checks his with Edna Mae Beck of the bank. A 65-year institution in Onawa, the Onawa State Bank looks ahead to 65 more years of satisfied customers. Another Onawa businessman deals with his customers at their places of business on their farms. Providing farmers with modern farm equipment brings Leonard Ryan to the farm for a conference with farmers Dad Page, Leonard Miller Sr., and Leonard Miller Jr. This rich soil, known as black gumbo, is fertile but tough to work. Ryan knows farm problems well because he farmed near Council Bluffs from 1929 to 1943. He now has the John Deere Farm Equipment Agency in Onawa. Tractors are just one item, though, of equipment Ryan handles. With scale models, he shows the tractor and the tractor hooked up with a combine, an all-purpose farm wagon, and a spreader, here's the disc that fits with it, and this rugged plow. This group, which any youngster would love to have, are used to show farmers John Deere selling points. Transformed into a rugged real-life model, the tractor does a man-sized job, imitated by future farmer Kent Miller on his smaller-sized model. And this rugged ground in Monona County is liable to bog down a guy, requiring helpful lifts from Mother, Mrs. Joan Miller. There's a father and son combination at the Ryan Agency, too. Working behind the service counter, Leonard Ryan gets valuable assistance from his son, Dwayne Ryan. Here they fill a customer's order for a battery. Farmer Don Loomis, who works 960 acres, is interested in a Let's Burr mill, which grinds oats, corn, and other small grain. Pointing up features of the mill is Ryan salesman George Armstrong. Keeping posted on farming problems, Ryan takes time out to talk to Eli Merlin. Ryan originally purchased his store from J.C. Messing Company in January of 1944. His franchise also includes General Motors trucks, De Laval separators, and heavy hardware. Back on the Miller farm, Kent has found a canine pal, and his dad has found a mechanical adjustment needed on his tractor that he can't handle. That means a call to Ryan's, who send a serviceman on the run fully equipped to get farm work going again with little delay. Farmer and city men alike marched off to the Civil War with those Monona County men who didn't return, honored by this monument. Hot summer days pose no problems for Onawa youngsters. Out Iowa Avenue and Highway 165, just 3.5 miles, is Blue Lake, and the lake has excellent swimming facilities with a beach house, bathing beach, and diving ducks. And right on in, the water's fine. Wherever kids swim, there are always seahorse fights, to the accompaniment of much splashing and yelling. And dunking. 15-year-old Betty Jo Smith is an expert swimmer. And these youngsters hope to be so before very long. A cool vacation spot for the family, only a few miles from the city. That's one advantage of living on the mighty Missouri, even if it does kick up a ruckus now and then. Another feature of Blue Lake is its excellent fishing. This fishing party is starting out to try to lure some of the many game fish with which the lake is stocked. Water for drinking is the concern of the city waterworks and Don Mustard, who runs the pumping station. One of Onawa's newest municipal projects is its sewage disposal plant. It was completed only 2 years ago, providing Onawa with the most modern in sewage disposal facilities. Cost of the plant was $300,000. Plant operator is Gus Lenter, who keeps a close watch on the solid separator and filter bed. Building is the job of Green Gables Builders, an Onawa firm specializing in prefabricated buildings. Green Gable products go to 16 Midwest states, including Iowa, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois. For a long haul, it's essential that parts be carefully secured on the trailer. This was the Green Gables' first product, the pig incubator. Among its larger products is this 24-foot square cottage. Plant Superintendent Bob Burgess displays a finished garage. Cora Burgess, Bob's daughter-in-law, is secretary for the plant. Mrs. Pearl Wilson is the bookkeeper, and Miss Tresselenter is the shipping clerk. This dado operation run by Sherman Sweet cuts notches in the ends of boards and splices them into longer planks. The machine runs 2,000 feet of lumber a day. Keeping the dado operator supplied with lumber is Fred Burgess, a veteran of 10 years with Green Gables. Working on a grain bin, Wilmer Meadows and Leo Campbell cover roof sections of the bin with heavy roofing. The plant turns out about 45 roof sections for these bins every day. And work here is on the sidewall section of a corn crib, one of the 25 such sections completed each day. Under the shadow of the Onawa Water Tower, Green Gables maintains a well-stocked lumber yard to keep its building operations supplied with raw materials. In addition, a complete machine shop is maintained for metal parts. Here, ventilators are spot welded for durability. The finished ventilators will be installed in a farrowing house or poultry building. Shortcuts that save valuable time are exemplified by this twin saw operation. The two high-powered rotary saws can be adjusted until they're the exact distance apart to cut lumber to specification. The lumber is only sawed once, with one saw at each end, whacking it off to the desired length. Of course, the noon whistle means lunchtime at Green Gables and a rest. Equally restful is the peaceful residential areas in Onawa. The town is known for its wide streets, heavily shaded by huge old trees. Early city fathers in Onawa looked far ahead when they laid out the town, with some streets 150 feet wide. Onawa is a town of beautiful homes, with most people owning their own homes. A peaceful but busy and progressive town, Onawa owes much of its prosperity to the surrounding land, which is fertile and productive because of the wide Missouri River and the streams that wind through the farms to empty into the Big Muddy. More than 16,000 people live off the land, directly or indirectly in Monona County, which has an annual farm income of close to $25 million. The land is the backbone of this Midwestern